Jared Jennings, thank you so much for being on the Inner Edison Podcast. I didn't even ask you, is that how you say your last name? Because I just assumed.
Yes.
Okay.
You nailed it.
Everybody, people don't understand this, but my wife's name is Marcia, Marcia. Ever since then, I ask usually everybody how they say their name, even if I know it, just because you never know. Because everybody calls her Marcia all the time, no matter where we go, even though it's Marcia.
I
All
would
right.
make the same mistake.
All right. So Jared, you have Phantom Brands, from what I understand, and so basically, how did you get into this type of industry that you're doing with the e-commerce? So let's explain people. You have Phantom Brands, and you focus on e-commerce for individuals. We'll just say that for now. How did you get into this industry?
So I was in corporate sales. I was doing payroll selling in San Diego. And I came to the realization that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I wanted to start my own company to some degree. And I decided to go into clothing because I've always liked fashion. I've always liked dressing and designers. And it's always been something of interest to me. So I created my own clothing brand, which is how I got started in this whole world. So I learned how to do graphic design. I learned how to, all the skill sets basically needed to run a clothing brand. I launched and ran my clothing brand for 2 years, and I built a lot of relationships because it's in the streetwear realm with professional athletes and people in music and entertainment because they're just drawn to that style of fashion. And I used those relationships into now what we do with Phantom, which is kind of a done for you brand build out because I saw that they have audiences and they have resources. This could be a really great business model for them. And so I created Phantom out of that idea. And then what we also do now is help existing brands. So we have two arms of the company.
All right, going back to your first brand that you built yourself, what did you learn in that brand? Because I mean, what year did you start that?
22.
Wow, so you started it right as the pandemic was full blown, right? 2022. Wow. I'm just saying because that's a lot of people didn't do that. A lot of people just hunkered down, didn't do anything prior. So when you started that, what did you learn from building your own brand? And did you say it's was a shoe or was it
Streetwear. So like
streetwear? Oh, streetwear. Sorry,
graphic designs,
I understand.
hoodies,
Yeah.
hats, things of that nature.
And what did you find out when you built that? Because it had to be a different. I mean, it's a different model than a lot of other people do for clothing. I'm just there's many different ways you can do clothing, like nice jackets like you're wearing right now and shirt, but now that was all streetwear. And what did you learn in that process? And I'll shut up so you can say it because I keep asking the same question over and over again. But go ahead.
Count countless things. I learned everything under the sun. It was my first true business. I've done podcasts and things of that nature, but this was my first true business, putting my money into it. I learned about financing and operations and creating products and marketing and all the mistakes that I made and inventory problems and working with suppliers. It was very eye-opening because I came from like a soldier on the ground selling payroll, and it's a very different perspective you need to have to run a company and move product and fit it to a demographic. Like these were all very foreign to me. I went to school for business management and sales, but a bachelor's degree is pretty basic knowledge. It's not that in depth. And
Right.
so this was very eye-opening, very eye-opening.
I kind of want to go here a little bit so people understand when you help other people starting their companies and what they do, that you've been through it and you've had these mistakes, so you understand where they're going to be failures and what you can look out for your clients. What was the first thing that you were like, "Oh my god, I didn't even know that"?
Probably understanding how to create a store, how to create a product. I was ordering my initial samples from China, and I went into this brand being very gun ho on only creating products that I would wear. I was like, I don't want to skimp out on quality. That's really going to piss me off. I don't want to wear something of my own brand that I'm ashamed of. And so the only way I knew how to get samples at that time, because I had no knowledge, was just from China, from Alibaba. And I'm ordering this stuff and I'm getting so mad. It's so awful. And what I learned from that situation is the power of networking with certain people in a specific industry. And so what I did was I went to screen printers and embroiderers that were going to do the end finishes of the product and asked them about manufacturers to get a foot in the door. Because oftentimes when you try to go at it your own, you don't have those connections, right? You don't have that industry knowledge that some people might be able to give you.
Right. All right. So then, because I think a lot of people, even myself, I'm a veteran and I do a lot in the veteran industry, and there's some stuff that I want to do, t-shirt line and all this stuff, but I'm so picky with t-shirts, it's ridiculous. I cannot stand the t-shirts they use on some of the stuff because there's a certain brand, Fresh Clean Tees. They just fit perfect. I'm like, why can't you get that T-shirt and have graphic stuff on it? But they all do all these other ones. So that's one of my issues that I run into. That any suggestion on some, tell me where to go. But so you learned how to find to get the manufacturer stuff. But how did you learn how to start your store, and where did you go the first time to put it up there to get your store going?
I just Googled how to how to create a website. I mean, it was
Oh,
pretty
so it
much
was a website-based store, not
all
like
online.
okay, not
Yes.
like the other store, like Shopify or those kind of things at the time. Was
It
it
was
Shopify?
Shopify.
Okay.
It was Shopify. I literally just Googled like best website for a clothing brand. I knew nothing. Eventually, we got into some stores. We never had a storefront, but we had stores hold our product. But it was all Google based. And that was the problem with the manufacturing issue as well. Because my only source of knowledge and information was the generic information on Google. And a lot of times with fabrics and quality of product, the best stuff is not on the front page of Google. It's through some connection in the industry, which is some of the troubles I ran into because I didn't have the knowledge.
Wow. And then, so how long did it take you to get that knowledge?
Well,
I mean,
still getting it, but when it came to manufacturers, it was towards probably the end of that year going into February when I launched February 22, because I started talking to and I started making friends with people that were in the industry prior, and they put me
right.
on the right track in terms of, no, this, you really should do it this way. You do it that. And that was a big eye opener. Because if you can access people that have the information that have already done it, that's a complete shortcut. You save yourself so much time and headache.
And these days you can find a lot more information besides Google, but I mean, they're like, that's a good place for most people to go. But to find certain things like I mean, with AI these days, you can ask
It's insane.
ChatGPT to break it all down for you and tell you step by step how to do everything. Now, don't get me wrong. It might lie to you on a couple steps, but it's amazing what it teaches you. You can't do that on Google, but you can. I asked it how to do something on high level the other day, and I said, give me a step by step, kind of like they used to do with the books for dummies. And it was like, wow, this is somebody who can write this stuff for you to walk you through it, where you don't have to ask somebody. You can get stuff done so much faster. But also with the fact of how much easier it is and faster you can do these things, it's just overwhelming because of all the different things you can do. And did you find that out when you first started, that there was some things that were like, okay, well, you already said you had to find the actual manufacturers of the clothing that you wanted because you wanted a certain quality. Did you ever do anything local? Because I know you
I
said
did
not in
a
China, but I know there used to
Mhm.
be places in LA when that was a long time ago, but where they'd actually do garment industry, and kind of like they used to do back in New York. Do they still
Yeah,
have that down
so
there?
yeah, my favorite manufacturers are local. My favorite printers are local, so that's really nice and convenient. And there's also like the massive lead times with overseas. And sometimes I do it for clients when they want really intricate pieces, but I prefer local just because from a customer service standpoint, from a timeline standpoint, you might pay a little bit more of a premium, but I also know the quality's better. It's right here, and I personally prefer that.
And you can see it, touch it as fast as possible, and you don't have to wait for it to come over on a big container and then realize it's not exactly what you told them you wanted, or they shipped you the
Exactly.
wrong stuff, or the ship hit something and the container fell off in the ocean.
It could happen.
It can.
We don't know what happens out there.
No, I mean, you never know. I mean, that's why there's so many shipping containers floating around in the ocean. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous because you can't just run and grab it and pick it right back up. It's just
You got to
doesn't
leave
work.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so we're getting into the process. So I want to stick with yours a little bit, and then we'll get into the other stuff if you don't mind. In 22, you started it.
Mhm.
How long did it take you to get full bore into actually selling the items, and and how'd that go?
So I had a launch, friends and family, that went quite well. People were fans of it, at least that knew me, which kind of validated the designs a little bit. And then right after that, I got wiped off the internet because I hired somebody on Fiverr to fix something in my Facebook ad account because I wanted to market and grow, but I didn't have the skill set on how to market or grow. So I hired somebody, they hacked me. I got wiped off the internet for about a month. So I had to figure that problem out. That's something nobody could, I couldn't go to Google for that problem.
So,
I
back a second. So you hired somebody to help you set up your Facebook, um, probably ad stuff that's on there, and they took you complete. This person you paid to do this hacked you and took everything from you.
So they hacked my Facebook account, my personal Facebook account that was tied to my ads
Mhm.
manager with my business.
Right.
And they posted on my personal account like child exploitation stuff. And so that got all accounts
Oh,
banned.
gotcha.
Personal,
Yeah.
like everything was wiped because of that. And so there goes my Instagram, there goes all my business platform and also my personal platform because of it.
So how did you get? Did you just start over, or did you get? Did you finally get it back?
So I never got it back because Facebook doesn't care, even
Yeah.
though I submitted my ID a million times. They don't
They
care.
don't. They don't care.
So
If they don't want to talk to you, they don't care about anything. Yeah.
they don't care. So I made a new Instagram, slightly different. My domain was still active and my website was still intact because it wasn't too connected, but I had to create a forwarding domain and new emails and new Facebooks and everything so that when I ran ads, it went to that forwarding domain, but I just sent it to my main website.
Mhm.
So I had to basically create everything from scratch. Yes.
So, and this is something they don't tell you about that could happen. This is not something that 50 years ago people had problems with, or 20 years ago people had problems with, or this is all new stuff that, as we talked about, things are easier, but they're also harder. People can mess with you a lot easier, because you could get shadow banned. My business account from my personal on Facebook was shadow banned because I talk a lot of political stuff on my radio show and other stuff I do, and somebody didn't like it, and they didn't tell me. And then it said, "Oh, by the way, this was like right after they changed everything. Oh, you're no longer shadow banned," or whatever they called it. I was like,
Wow.
"You didn't even tell me I was." No wonder nobody was engaging, and I didn't have the engagement I used to have on there. And that's why I tell people, just pick a platform, but focus on your website, focus on your personal brand, get it off of those social media sites, because you never know what's going to happen. Just like recently with the TikTok. If you had a TikTok store, your thing went down, even though it came back up, but we don't know what's going to happen in 90 days from now, when who's going to buy it and who's going to do that and what changes they're going to be.
There's a lot of new problems, and censorship was really, really bad. It's getting a little better, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it was really, really bad.
Oh, yeah, totally bad. And then it didn't need to be.
Of
But
course not.
yeah, that's why I like talk radio on AM, because it's the last free press.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
hear
that's
you.
what I do my mortgage stuff on, and, my show, I get 50% of my business from over there, from doing the
Awesome.
talk radio, and I just tell people it's a great avenue. People will go there because they wanna hear what they wanna hear. They don't wanna have to worry about being banned for what they say or whatever else. It's totally different. And when you're doing business, you shouldn't have to worry about this other stuff.
No,
But one of the headaches you have is the fact, just like I am in California, we pay high taxes and everything else in our state. And you haven't decided to move your business out of the state yet?
I have not. I have family here, and so I have a lot of ties to California that go beyond business. You know, it's interesting, and I obviously don't want to get too political, but I saw that California is trying to become a country now.
Are they?
So I don't know if
I
that'll ever happen.
It'll never happen,
I don't think it'll ever happen.
because
It,
here's the reason why. This is the only political thing I say. It's California likes to have natural disasters so that the Fed bails us out,
sure,
so they don't have to spend their money on those kind of things.
right,
So that if you were your own country, you wouldn't have that bailout. So we'll never go
right. If it did, I would probably go to Florida. I'd
there.
probably end up in South Beach or something.
You'll
Um,
die. You're used to Orange County. Uh,
okay,
First, yeah, that's, and before you
maybe
stop,
that's
yeah, I tell everybody, if you're in California, don't
uh,
sell any property, move
yeah.
to where you wanna move to, be there the worst time of the year, see if you can handle it, because most people can't. I've had so many people move back from Texas, Florida, you name it, just because they can't handle the humidity, the other stuff that comes with it, and it's not cheaper with the property taxes and
Right.
everything else. People think it is, it's not. We're protected in California, in many ways. As much as we deal with the other stuff, we're really protected on property taxes and other stuff, that where it can't go up to where you can't afford your house. Where like in Texas, you're not. So there's a lot of stuff that people don't look. They just think the grass is always greener. Well, until you actually get there, you need to check it out. before you
Yeah.
do it. And that's everything, even with your companies and everything else. Before you make any major changes, see how that can affect you, because you never know what's going to happen. Just like, you hire somebody for Fiverr to do something and they mess up your whole everything existence. And you would think you'd be protected going through Fiverr because of it's Fiverr.
There's always something unforeseen. And in every single avenue, you always think something is going to go this way, and it always goes that way. What's that one saying? If something can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Yeah.
It's more or less the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. It totally is the truth. And that's why I tell people in my industry, if you don't like it today, don't worry, it'll be worse tomorrow.
True.
It's just the way it works.
Very true. Very true.
All right. So when you're talking about building your business and how the things that you went through, what would you say? All right, you learned a lot, but going through this process, because this is Inner Edison, your greatest accomplishments come from your greatest defeat. What was probably your greatest defeat while you were building your own business?
So in the first year, it was the people that I landed in the clothes, which really, really helped the brand because again, streetwear is very status based, and we need that social proof and that cosign essentially of celebrities to be in the brand. And so we got a DJ named John Summit in the first year. He wore the brand a lot, all the time organically, which again, this is why I'm more so proud because I wasn't paying them. It was just cold DMing a ton of people and saying, hey, I have this brand, would love to send you stuff. And then they wore it because they liked it. That really helped us a lot. So that DJ, other professional athletes, and getting into stores in the first year was also really big. Wholesale orders were very nice because obviously you're fighting for marketing and average order value when it's to a consumer, but when it's to a store, there's no marketing cost. It's a higher bulk purchase. So those were the couple of the things I would say were very important.
All right. So doing all that, I mean, how long do you still have your brand today?
It runs, but we're not pushing the brand. So it'll take orders, but once everything is sold out, that'll be it.
And then you're not going to do it anymore, or are you just going to do a few? I'm just curious because I mean, building your own brand and then it's your baby, right? Your first baby. And for most, parents, first baby's their best baby, unless you're the mom, the baby is the baby of the family.
Yeah.
That's what all the kids think anyway. You just never know who's the favorite because they never tell you. And I always tell people it just changes depending on who's acting up the worst that
Sure.
week. Yeah,
I can imagine. I don't have kids yet, but I can imagine.
yeah. I had 5. They're all moved
Nice.
out. Yeah. So yeah, it was just who's your favorite. My wife's favorite is my son Blake, the youngest, but that's what they think, but that's not the case. But he's the baby, so he got away with murder, the other kids thought. All right. So now that you went through all that and you built it, and then you work with people who want to build a clothing line on e-commerce. Basically, what you do, you set up their stores. I assume all the other stuff that has to do with that. And I'm probably putting words in your mouth, so I'm gonna let you talk.
So we have 2 main models. We have the model where there is a public figure that wants a brand, and then we will do everything. We do 99% of the work, designs, oversee production, website content, all the things we did for the first brand for them as a done for you model. Now, if there's an existing brand that wants our expertise, we will help them with maybe influencers or maybe paid media, different ways to help them grow.
Okay. And what's the other brand? You said that's done for you. Did I miss
So
it?
we create them their own brand. So we had an NBA player come to us that wanted his own streetwear brand. He liked Full Hearts. He wore Full Hearts. So we created him his own brand that he owned, full equity. We were just the operational people.
Right. And so you would just run everything for them and order everything and make sure take care of all the stuff is basically what I'm hearing.
All of it. They basically just say they like it or tweak it when it comes to products, when it comes to content, etc. But we're the ones that do everything for them.
Do you do the social media stuff for them too? Like any of the posting for all their brands and everything else? Or what do you do?
We do. So there's 2 parts. There's 0 to 1, which is basically getting them ready for launch. After they launch, we would then come in if they want us to, which typically they do, as an operational partner. So socials and website and fulfillment and all that sort of stuff.
And so who's your perfect client you're looking for? Are you looking for more clients? I should have asked that first before I threw that out there.
For the done for you, probably a few because we don't take many at a time. It's a very intensive service that we provide. We've loved working with pro athletes because when they really get fashion, they already have stylists, they already like clothes, they have the resources to invest in a business asset, and they have an audience, which is one of the big selling points. Is you'll own a brand and you won't have to market because you already have fans, and so that allows for a lot more early profitability than most brands, have the luxury of.
Right. Because I mean, a lot of brands would have to these days. They go, I'm constantly
Years.
yeah, I'm constantly being hit up to do things for certain people on some of my platforms and stuff, and it's like, okay, well, I don't want to. That's not who I am. That's not what I want to promote. And a lot of people go that route, which is fine. But what I'm hearing is the people you're working with, because it's pro athletes, or I know you do other stuff, but I'm just saying those are the best for what you're talking about, because you can help them build with their own clients already. It's like what Joe Rogan did for podcasting. He took his audience from TV and MMA and everything else and brought them over to podcasting, which is how he did so well.
Right. It's a big, big advantage to already have an existing audience that likes and trusts you.
Right. Now, this is new to me, this whole e-commerce and what you're doing. So what am I not asking you, Jared, that I haven't asked you?
In terms of the done for you brand, that's essentially the model. I can go more into the nitty gritty. I don't know if anybody would care. But the main aspect is we want them to have a business asset that can last them beyond playing years. That's another key part too, is a lot of players have a lifespan of 4 or 5 years in the league, and they get all this money at once, and then they don't have those eyes or that media attention for the rest of their life. And so we try to position it as something that make the most of your time and start it now, kind of like the Joe Rogan effect, right? He didn't start it when he was 70 and didn't have the same relevance. And so that's another key aspect that we think is very important for them.
Right. And then, so when you're building these, they're done for you. So you talked about done for you. Is there another model I missed?
B2B side, if there's an existing brand, yes.
And what is that brand? So what do you do for them?
The key things that we do for them is we help them with influencer marketing. We think that's a very healthy way to grow. We also do paid media.
And don't get me wrong, what I say about me, about certain influence stuff, it's, everybody has a certain thing they want to brand they want to work with, right? To a certain point. Hopefully they don't just do it like a lot of the race car drivers do, put every sticker they possibly can on themselves and everything else. Yeah, I remember years ago, and this is a long time ago, that they had to drink whatever was on their uniform. And I don't know if it's that way anymore. You know what I mean? They had to actually use the stuff that they promoted. And that's what you should, because that is the best way to promote stuff. That's why certain companies did so well, is because of the fact that the owner, whoever is promoting actor or whatever, they actually utilized it and really promoted it, and grew it. And I think you need to make sure that whatever you're doing, you have that same thing, so people believe you, who you are.
That bit a lot of people in the butt about 5 years ago, though, because every influencer under the sun was just promoting every single product every day. And they lost all trust because they were like, well, was it this product you actually want, or is it this product you actually use? So there was a big shift in the market because they were just running ads every single day, basically, with a new product promotion. So there's different ways to do it. There needs to be a genuine, authentic connection of the person to the brand. If there isn't, there's no point in doing it, because people are smart. People can see through the camera and see when someone's forcing an ad, or when somebody actually is excited about opening up a product and actually using it.
So since 22, we're in 25. That's not very long. It's only about, it'll be, depending on when you started your original company, you started in 22, right?
I launched in 22. I started working on it in 21.
Oh, yeah. So in 22, when did you launch it?
February. So we're almost about
3
to be
years.
at 3 years.
So that's a huge change from launching your first product to now helping other people launch their products. And please don't take that wrong. That wasn't a negative. That was just an observation. That's pretty fast for most people. Aren't used to doing it that fast.
I like to work fast.
I know, but you're also in Orange County and LA, that where things get done much faster. I'm in Modesto, close to the Bay Area, where things get done a lot faster. I was telling somebody else, I've created a totally new company for veterans, for disability and stuff, because what I ran into when I was doing mine. And there's a lot of companies that do it, but they're back in Georgia and other places. They're good old boys. They don't understand all the processes and everything we can do to make things so much faster, and use AI to help build things and do it right, so that you can help more people. And I think that's the big difference when people come to us, like in California, especially Orange County, San Diego, LA. You're used to doing that. and in the Bay Area, you're used to working hard to get this stuff done because you can't afford to live where you live if you don't work hard and do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we need speed. Speed and urgency is always top of mind. I can't relate. Whenever I've been to Europe a couple times in the past 3 years, and the mindset's so different. It's they work like 3 days a week, half days. It's mind boggling. And I'm always, we're very programmed to go. I think that's the best way to live, in my opinion.
It is, but then you got to get to a point where you have some, eventually sometimes you do take some time. But okay, let me back that up a little bit. If you listen to Alex Hermosi, he never takes a day off because he loves the work. And so you have to be okay with what you're doing, and you have to be in relationships that's okay. A lot of people are not. They're in a relationship, they want to start a company, and then it takes a lot of their time. Their spouse isn't on board because they didn't talk to them about being on board. And so you have to make sure that everybody's on the same page when you do this.
And I will say it's probably very difficult on the other side, to deal with somebody very obsessed. You have to find a very unique partner because it's a big sacrifice on their end compared to a normal relationship. And I'm very similar where I work every day. I work weekends, I'm very involved. And it's not something that most people will want to sign up for. And I'm fully aware of that.
Or they just don't understand what they're looking to do. You know what I mean? They just don't. You have to figure out because for me, I mean, I could talk to people all day long. That's on a podcast or the stuff I want to understand why people do what they do, how they got there, all that stuff. That's just my nature. What if my wife used to grab my leg and tell me to shut up at parties because I'd ask questions why people voted a certain way or whatever. And I don't care why. I just want to understand why, so I can understand that and explain it to other people. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from you is we enjoy the work. We enjoy what we do. So that's why we enjoy doing it. Yes, we'll take some time for ourselves and do other stuff, but we really enjoy what we do. So we don't think it's work.
Right. And when I get the question sometimes on socials, what do I do? How do I start a company? One of my first answers always is you have to be aware of what you're even into, what even interests you, because don't just listen to somebody's business model on YouTube and do it, because you won't last. There's too much to do. It's too difficult. You have to have some level of interest to the work, or else you will not last. You have to.
Well, that's like everybody says, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a podcaster. Well,
Right, but why?
yeah.
Right.
Well, first of all, the 10-23 rule of podcasting I came up with is 80% of the podcast fell out before the 10th episode. The other 10%, out of the other 20%, the 10% more of that falls off by the 23rd podcast. So you only have 10% of the podcast left after the 23rd episode. That's why you have a lot of access to be able to do podcasts, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of editing. It's a lot of other stuff, getting the right clients, everybody. It's a huge undertaking if you do it right. And I just fell into it and I went crazy on it. And people are like, wow, you do so much. I probably did 10,000 hours in the last few years of this stuff to get really good at it, to where just like what you did, you worked really hard on building what you did and learned from it. And now you're helping other people build it, but you love what you do. And that's what's important in life, to do what you love, so you don't feel like you're working a day in your life.
Right. And you have that innate, interest in you. You love talking to people, right? And so podcasting is like the perfect model for you. You couldn't have a random person do 10,000 hours of podcasting, right? That's what happens is a lot of people say, that sounds fun. I want to do a podcast. They get into it. It's way too much work. They don't have that drive. They fall off.
Right. So I've been in sales for so long, so I'm used to asking people questions, why they do what they do and how come, what are they looking for, the whole 9 yards. And it started with talk radio in 2018. And then, then I got into podcasting and everything else after that. But it's the same thing, is you have to find what you're passionate about. And then whatever that is, then you got to still find your perfect client in your avatar, who that person is that you want to work with. And a lot of people go, I don't know. I'm like, well, who do you have fun with that you work with? That would be your perfect client. That's who you want to work with. Because don't get me wrong, you talk about celebrities and other people who do it, but I'm sure there's some you won't work with because they're not nice people. And those are not people you want to work with. You need to figure that out. And, for me, I love working with vets because they trust somebody who's been through what they've been through. There is that built-in trust, and they'll work with you. And that's probably what you're building in the celebrity side with the ball players and stuff.
Yeah. And Two quick things on that. One, public figures get an interesting reputation, but the ones I've met are so nice. Like 99% of them are just really normal people that are really good at one thing. Like the nicest, chill. Like they're more relaxed clients than businesses I help. Like they're so nice. And on the flip side of that, how you mentioned sometimes you meet somebody that you want to work with and it just doesn't work out well. I've also walked away from deals at the very last second that would have been really great on paper and financially for my company because of disagreements or because of that person, and it's not worth it.
No.
It's not worth going through with it, especially in the way that we work. And you have to maintain that level of standard of what you're willing to tolerate.
And because if you're at all down to where you are, or where I used to be down there, you deal with a lot of people who think they're somebody, and they'll sue you for any reason at all, just for fun. And you have to be careful. And I'm not saying they all will. I'm just saying you. So there's times you walk away because it's not worth the headache that potentially down the road for all the additional stuff you have to worry about. And that's why it's important to work with the right people, and you have to focus on that. And if you think it's not the right person, then move on, just like you just said, because it's going to bite you more down the road.
It's almost a more important skill than hiring correctly. Even though most people will just do whatever they need to for clients, it can be such a headache. So I would say take your time with who you hire and also who you bring on as a client.
Yeah. And they used to say, treat your employees really well, so they treat your clients really well. But we're also in California, so we won't talk anymore about that. Not on air anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Jared, did I forget anything? Did I not ask you anything I should have asked you? I know I asked you earlier if I was missing anything. This is just, like I said, a new avenue for me with e-commerce, so I didn't know everything to ask, and I want to make sure I covered it.
No, we covered a lot.
Okay.
I think that I think it was a great conversation.
I think so too. How do people find you? Do you want people to find you?
You can find me. I'm Jared Jennings on all platforms. I'm creating content around business and mindset, and then the e-commerce company is called Phantom Brands.
All right, Jared, thank you so much for being on the show today. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me, Ed.
My pleasure.